Okay, so Leetcode practice time. So in this video there are two goals. The first goal is to see how to solve this problem, and then we are going to do some coding work for the solution. And then the second goal is to see how we should behave in a real interview. So let's get started. So in a real interview, remember the first step is always try to fully understand the problem. If there is anything unclear, please don't be shy to bring up the question, and at the same time think about some edge cases. So for example, let's take a look at the question. Valid parenthesis string. So given a string containing only three types of the characters, the open and the closing parentheses and the star. So write a function to check whether the string is valid. We define the validity of the string by these rules. So any left parenthesis must have a corresponding right parenthesis. Any right parenthesis must have a corresponding left parenthesis, and left parenthesis must go before the corresponding right parenthesis. Okay, so the star could be treated as a single right parenthesis or a single left parenthesis or just an empty string. And an empty string is also valid. So let's see some constraints. It says the size of the string is between 1 to 100. Okay, so it is guaranteed to be not empty. So at this moment, I cannot think of any edge cases for this question. So let's step into the next part, which is about finding a solution. So how to solve this problem? So of course we could do some brute force searching to try to enumerate all the possibilities replacing the star. Like for the star, there are three options: empty, left parenthesis, or right parenthesis. We enumerate all the possibilities and see if any of them is valid. So that one, it is going to be, suppose there are n stars within the suppose there are m stars within the string, then the runtime is going to be 3 to the power of m. So that's the general solution, the runtime for the brute force solution. So brute force, so the runtime for brute force is like this. So it is m star. So let's see if there is any better solution. So remember how we tell whether a string is empty. Let's say if there's no star, how we tell if it is empty. So what we care about is just if for any left parenthesis there is a matching right parenthesis. So we just need to keep a counter of the open parenthesis, and at the end we just need to make sure that the number of the open parentheses is 0, and in the middle there's no more closing parentheses than the open parentheses. So what matters is the number of the open parentheses essentially for a string that doesn't have a star. So what if we have a star? So if we have a star, there are three options: empty, open, or closing parentheses we could replace the star with. But there really is some range. I think we could think about the range of the open and closing parentheses if we replace the star. So let me give you an example. Let's say if you have this one. So for this one, the counter of the open parentheses at the end is equal to 1. So let me just explain it in more detail. So here we have one open parenthesis, we have two open parentheses, and now we have three open parentheses. So that's normal. And suppose we have something like this. So for this place we have one open parenthesis, for this place we have two open parentheses, for this place there are different options. So for this place it could be anywhere between let me write down the range. It could be anywhere between 1 to so it could be anywhere between 1 to 3. So because for this one, we could, if it is a closing parenthesis, we just consume one open parenthesis. That is why it is 1. So if it is empty, then we just have 2 open parentheses. If it is an open parenthesis, we have 3 open parentheses. So similarly for this one, the range is going to be 0 to 4. So, and then finally, we have the closing parenthesis. So for the closing parenthesis, we just need how many options do we have? So to make it valid, I would say it is just the 0 to 3. So the 0 is we could have the 0 is we could have like this one as empty string and this one as a closing parenthesis. This is a closing parenthesis, so we have 0 open parentheses here. Or we could have 4 of them as open parentheses and this as a closing parenthesis, then it is 3. So the reason we don't want to keep it as so it's essentially, you may ask a question: what if those 2 stars are also closing parentheses? Then it could be like -1 to 3. So, but we don't really want to. But for this solution, I would say I don't really want to keep more of the closing parentheses than the open parentheses. So because if you keep more closing parentheses, then it is going to be invalid for sure. So at the end, what we need to see is the smallest number of the open parentheses. If it is 0, then we just say okay. It's achievable for us to replace the star with some open or closing parentheses so that we can make the whole string as valid. So that's essentially about the solution. So the runtime is going to be all of n, so n is the length of the string. So having said that, let's start to do some coding work. So for coding, we care about the speed, don't be too slow, the correctness of the code, and also the readability of the code. So let's see. If you have 2 things. One is the minimum number of the open parentheses, and one is a maximum number of the closing parentheses. So we will go through each of the string corollary. So if the character is a open parenthesis, then for sure we are going to have the min plus min and plus max. So otherwise, if it is a closing parenthesis, then for sure we are going to minus the min and minus the maximum open parenthesis as option. Otherwise, it means it is a star. So we could like replace it as empty, or you could replace that open parenthesis, or you could replace this as a closing parenthesis. So what we could do is we will plus the max. So we will plus the max, because the maximum, to achieve the maximum open parenthesis, we will just replace the star as an open parenthesis. So how to do with the min? So what we could do is, first of all, we could try to replace it with a closing parenthesis, which means minus the min. But what makes this difference is so it is not going to make any difference here actually. Okay, so actually we could just see if else we would just do it like this here. And now we know the minimum and maximum parentheses. So remember, we don't really want to keep mean as something negative. So first of all, we will say, okay, so if max is already smaller than 0, which means even if we replace all the star with open parentheses, there's still more closing parentheses than we need. So here we just need to return false. Otherwise, if we don't return false, it means there really is some option. We could have more open parentheses here. So we have more. There's an option. We have more open parentheses than the closing parentheses. So if the mean is equal to some negative value, if mean is smaller than 0, we just need to replace it as 0. And finally, what we should do is we just need to see if mean is equal to 0. If yes, then it is true. Otherwise, it is false. So that's pretty much about the code. Let's do some testing on this approach. So for this approach, let's see example. Of course, for example, for the example 1, it is going to have mean and max both as 0. So we are going to return true. For this, the mean here is, so the maximum is 1, and the mean, so the mean is, so what is the mean? So if it is a star, then so first of all, when it is here, then it is mean is 0. So when it is here, mean is -1. But since max is larger or equal to 0, then we have mean set as 0. So finally, we are going to return true for this. And similarly for this one, mean max as 1. When it is here, mean is equal to 0, max is equal to 2. When it is here, max is equal to 1, and mean is equal to 0. When it is here, max is 0, mean is 0, so we are going to return true finally. So I think overall the solution should work. Let's give it a shot by running this piece of code. Alright, so it's accepted. Let's see. Okay, so it is wrong answer. Why it is wrong? So we have the open parenthesis star and the closing parenthesis. So let's say first of all, if it is open, we have mean and max both as 1. Okay. So when it is a star, we have the, okay, so it is a star, then yeah, so we don't really want to have the same operation for both mean and max. So instead, what we should do is, else if c is equal to a closing parenthesis, then we do this. Otherwise, if it is a star, we are going to do different things for mean and max. So this is minus mean, this is plus the max. So this means if it is a star, max means we are going to replace the star with open parentheses. Means we are going to replace it with closing parentheses. Okay, so now we should be able to deal with this case. Okay, let's give it another submission. Okay, so now everything looks good. Sorry, I made some mistake when trying to do the update here. So that's it for this coding. I would say definitely set up some test cases like that to try to have good enough test coverage. So that's it for this coding question, the solution. If you have any question about the solution or about the puzzle, feel free to leave some comments below. If you like this video, please help subscribe to this channel. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.